Me, oh my friends, that was one heck of a game against the Boston Bruins this evening. The Oilers lose 3-2, and of course now we can fully move into what I've wanted to cover all day. Rumor season is just about over for the Edmonton Oilers, and with that we'll get to the one Mattias Ekholm, who again is once again in the Oilers conversation as a trade target. Friends, this is Dolynny TV. Welcome to the channel. Glad to have you along this evening. Thank you again if you tuned into the live stream. There was an absolute buzz all night here on Dolynny TV as we put up one heck of an evening, and now we get to do it all over again in video form. If you're new to the channel, what I want you to do here in the next little bit is consider hitting that subscribe button on the channel. I'd love to have you aboard as part of the subscriber base. We just, on that live stream, in fact, crossed over 10,900 subscribers, and now well on our way to finally hitting that 11,000 marker here in the next week or so. So with that, let's take down the score and let's get over to the lineup graphic that I have, which is actually now being used for a tweet from Darren Drager, where we talk about interested to see how big, small Nashville's next trade will be. Sources say the Oilers and Predators continue discussions on Mattias Ekholm, and that's where we're sitting. Is it's kind of beautiful to see that the Oilers are looking at all options on the defensive market. Today we got word that Erik Karlsson is no longer a valid option for most reasons. Obviously, he has not been asked to waive his no trade. He feels it would be weird if he was asked to waive his no trade clause now. So now all of a sudden the Oilers circle back to the guys in the lower tiers, a Mattias Ekholm, a Jakob Chychrun, who we are also very well noted from many sources within the Oilers organization in the media to be very much still in on, right? The Oilers, despite not making a move as of yet, are still ready to leave everything down to deadline day if they have to make the moves count. And as it sits right now, Mattias Ekholm, Joel Edmondson, Jakob Chychrun, when you're looking to add a defenseman that can change the course of your season in the playoffs, all of them are still available at this trade deadline. Unfortunately, Jake McCabe went to the Toronto Maple Leafs along with Sam Lafferty today, where the Oilers really going to give up that much, but it's also really not that much that the Oilers could have had to give up to get those two players. The salary cap, though, would have been a whole nother thing, and Chicago's asks could have been completely different of our Edmonton Oilers. But that's where we sit, friends. It's one of those things now. The Oilers again continue to grind away with the deadline, and the quote literally says that right there. Among the options Ken Holland is grinding away on with the deadline looming. The deadline is on Friday afternoon. We will be live here on Dolynny TV with the deadline updates all throughout the day, going to town just like we did tonight on an NHL live stream, but having ourselves a much different, much funner night on Dolynny TV than we will usually have during a stressful 3-2 Bruins win over top of the Oilers. But as it comes down to it, Mattias Ekholm, I think you've heard me repeat it enough over the course of the past several years, is he's a guy who makes sense. And you know what? You read a whole bunch on Mattias Ekholm, and you kind of look at a guy who would spell off Darnell Nurse in tough moments, a guy who can play minutes in the defensive zone and give you plus quality, a guy who is a very good defenseman overall and a very good player that you want on your team. Who does that potentially sound like that the Oilers had at a time last season? Well, to me, that sounds like Duncan Keith. And if you can somehow acquire a Duncan Keith-esque player at the NHL Trade Deadline, my goodness, friends, the Edmonton Oilers could very well benefit from having that kind of player on the roster. And obviously for Mattias Ekholm, he's at 6.25 against the cap right now, I believe. We'll head over to Cap Friendly and just quickly make sure we know what we're talking about. And it looks like Michael Hauser just got another contract from the Buffalo Sabres. That, my friends, is fantastic to see. If you don't know that story, you definitely have to check out the Michael Hauser story in Buffalo. But Nashville right now loading up on the draft picks seems to be their forte. But Mattias Ekholm at $6.25 million. So for the Oilers, if you were to somehow, some way, I don't know, say get them to retain 50% and take Kyler Yamamoto, you could make a deal happen. And I think it was according to Bob Stauffer today that the Oilers are interested in talking to the Nashville Predators about one Kyler Yamamoto, who, if you're looking for a little bit of post-game knowledge following the Bruins and Oilers game, had themselves a pretty good game against the Bruins, and part of that was Kyler Yamamoto whiffed on a lot of chances that could have blown this game wide open, but he was looking dangerous around the net, buzzing all night, making some plays happen, and if only he could have finished it off. But you can't live your lives on ifs, woulda, couldas, and shouldas, and that's why we're not going to worry too much about it. Instead, we're going to figure out how can we get better, and I will tell you tenfold, Mattias Ekholm is a guy that makes this Edmonton Oilers squad much better. Like I said, a Duncan Keith-esque player for the Edmonton Oilers kind of impact is what Mr. Mattias Ekholm would bring to this team should he be acquired. So that's where we sit, friends. But again, I just want to touch on the Erik Karlsson situation, right? It's one that continued to evolve over time. We continue to see the hype, and we will continue more than likely to see the hype throughout the course of the next, 6, 7 months into NHL training camp. Later in the next season is kind of where I'll see it, because obviously Erik Karlsson is getting traded out of San Jose at some point. The likely only destination is Edmonton, and the Oilers are looking to try and make something of that. And if they can indeed acquire Erik Karlsson in the offseason, I'm sure we'll have ourselves some big days in Oilers land talking about that around either the NHL draft, the NHL free agent frenzy, or around some quiet day, August 13th, just a no-name, whatever the heck day that is, where we talk about nothing, and then suddenly, boom, Erik Karlsson's been traded to the Edmonton Oilers for a massive package. But that's where we're kind of sitting right now, friends. Obviously, things will continue to evolve here over the next 72, 80 hours as we get towards the NHL trade deadline, and of course the 7 a.m. start time on the live stream on Friday. I booked the day off, okay? If I can ask you to please show up, I hope that's not asking too much. I'm taking a day off work. You just need to tune in for 5 minutes on your lunch break and I'll be a-okay with you. But that's where we sit today, friends. And of course, Jacob Chychrun continues to just kind of be on the periphery of all this in Ken Holland's view. And that's kind of the beautiful thing, is the focus again is shifted to Mattias Ekholm with everybody else in mind. I don't even want to mention Joel Edmundson, because that is a fat L by Mr. Ken Holland should he call on Joel Edmondson's name on NHL Trade Deadline Day. That's just my opinion. I don't hate Joel Edmundson the person. I just don't need the player on my team, all right? Friends, I'm Tyson. This is Dolynny TV. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't had a chance yet, definitely do this right now. On your way out is hit that subscribe button, and I will catch you tomorrow for more Oilers news. Thanks so much for hanging out tonight. I am up on out of here.